Okay, hello again. Let's let's jump right in here with the middle game section. Although this is kind of like more of an end game section in the end, it falls under the middle game book, okay? But it just kind of shows you an idea of. I mean, this is like a early end game, late middle game. Well, no, I would probably say this is an end game position. Okay, let's transition quickly so you can see the board. Okay. So what I did is I skipped a little bit. I skipped a couple of positions in chapter 4 where we just started off now because it was more like the romantic era chess game. So they just show you some really nice games with a lot of tactics and, you know, sacrifices and stuff like that. So it's more just about analyzing or anything else, okay? Whereas from a middle game point of view, we are looking at how to do a bit of schematic thinking, or just how to assess the position correctly. Okay, so we had those 7 things. We had the looking at the material to see if it's equal or not. Then the second thing we had was in a position was to look at if there is any immediate threats. And the third thing we looked at was the king safety of either side. Having a look at that. And then we looked at pawn structure. Under pawn structure, there was many things we looked at. We looked at open files, we looked at open diagonals, we looked at outposts, we looked at pawn islands, we looked at weak squares or weak pawns, and we also looked at the center. Who's controlling the center, and then we also looked at space. If who's got space advantage, and if so, where. And then the last thing was to just look at the pieces themselves, okay? Looking at where they are, is there any pieces that are underdeveloped or not, doing anything useful, so on and so forth. So those are the things that we look at to assess a position. It's a quick way of doing it without having that massive list of Steiner's elements added. We can have like a list of 20 things that we look at, and it's confusing. Okay, so like I said, I skipped a little bit forward, and there is a little picture here in the book of Jose Raul Capablanca, and I just wanted to read this little snippet here for you. We have introduced the subject of schematic thinking. We have to bear in mind that this way of thinking is only viable if the opponent cannot develop any activity and is forced to take up a wait and see attitude. So that's very important, because all of the games that we looked at so far, the opponent was not really capable of generating something himself. So he was more just reacting to what we were doing, and that's important to note. So the idea of just slowly improving our own position only works if our opponent does not have a clear plan or idea of his own, that he can obviously play. So in the position here, let's have a look at the position here. Okay, uh, I would quickly say that black is obviously better. Okay, just because of the following reason. Just from a pawn structure point of view, you can see that white has got 4 power pawn islands and we only have 2. So black definitely has a superior pawn structure. This is very important to note. Okay, but other than that, white has got good control in the center at this point. Well, give or take. He's got control over the open D file. So, white does have things in his favor right now as well. So how do we take advantage of this pawn structure problem that white has, and give ourselves the best chance of winning? So just after the diagram, they say here in this diagram position, black is clearly better on account of his superior pawn structure. White has various pawn groups, whereas black has a beautiful connected formation on the queen side. Okay, so then they show us the next couple of moves, and they show us, and then they try and explain why. Okay, so let me just scroll down here and see if. Just want to have a quick look at something. Okay, never mind, that's perfect. Okay, so knight e4 was played here. Okay, now we need to kind of obviously see that, it just blocks the rook from defending, but bishop. Okay, so what black starts doing here is he starts trading off into a rook endgame where he still has the superior pawn structure and ends up having the superior piece as well. So let us see quickly how this goes. So check, king g2, rook takes e7, pawn takes e4, rook takes e4, rook takes e4, d takes e4, rook takes e4. Okay? Then he plays rook b5, rook e2, and rook b3. Fine. I mean, this is all pretty much forced. After king g2, there's nothing much you can do about this. You don't have a choice. You have to take there. Now, you probably have to take on e4, otherwise your d4 pawn is hanging. And you're going to have to take this pawn, otherwise you're going to be down a pawn, or you're not. Yeah. And then after rook b5, you can't allow us to take on b2 and then rook b3 and winning the other pawn as well, because then we will win this endgame quickly. So you have to play rook e2 and now rook b3. Okay, so now we re-look at the position and see what did black have in his vision here. So black realizes that he still has this very strong pawn formation. Okay, the rook is doing a great job by blocking off the king, attacking the b pawn, very weak pawn, and also defending the b7 pawn, which is the base of black's queenside pawns. Okay, so the other thing that we need to note then as well, just get rid of all of that, is that white obviously still has these pawn islands, so he's got 3 pawn islands versus our 2. The pawn on d4 is very weak, and because of the fact that this king is blocked in here, and probably has to keep an eye on the h2 pawn as well, our king, this black king, is now capable of just running up the board. So it's probably going to be heading for this d5 square if it can. Just hammering on the isolated d pawn would be the obvious way of trying to win material. And once we win material, then we're going to start pushing our pawns, and we're going to hammer on the b2 pawn next as well. So let's look at what he ends up doing in this position. We will just continue on a little bit and see what gets played. So king f2 gets played, king f6, it's very logical, king e1. Okay, now he plays h6 apparently. So now, why? They give this move an exclamation mark, so we're going to have to look at why that is important. Let's see if we can figure it out ourselves. It might be, okay, can he play king d1? Looks problematic for him. If he plays king d1, can we just play rook d3 check? So something like, let's say if king d1, then rook here, there, and king. Would we really go that way? I thought king f5 looks logical, because now we have 2 choices. We have this and we have this. Obviously going either after either one of these pawns would be the goal. So if king e3, then we can just go king here, can we not? He can maybe defend it, but then that pawn is bust. Okay, so this looks like a logical option. Maybe he can he maybe play something like king here? We go here, king here, we takes, he goes king here maybe? Does he have time for this? Does he have time for that? King, 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 king. So that stops that. And do we have time to push our pawns? So let's have a quick look at c5, king here, b5, king takes, just b4. Or do we just play c4 immediately? Let's say pawn here, then we can get a quick pawn. Do we just play c3? He has to take, we take, Maybe king goes, let's just try and avoid check squares. King goes here, and it is currently equal on the amount of moves that we need. So maybe b4 immediately. New variation. We're threatening just to go takes, and then c3. So if he takes, we play maybe on the outside. So we go a3, he takes, and we go here. Now we are much quicker at promoting our pawn. Okay, that should be a fine and easy win. This is not a drawing pawn. The king is too close. These pawns can't go anywhere. They are going to get chowed. So, okay, so that doesn't work. So I think after king f5, he is in big trouble. He will have to lose something. He will have to lose one of these pawns. And once you lose one of those pawns, the rest should be easy. Okay, so he can't play rook d1, king d1. Okay, what else is issues here? He doesn't want to move this rook because otherwise our king comes in to d5. So that he doesn't want to allow. So h6 looks like it's just a little bit of a zugzwang move, you know? Put you into a position where pretty much anything you want or could move just creates another weakness. So, okay, so h6 was played by black. Beautiful move. I just want to see, okay, yeah, so they show the variation, so king d1 doesn't work. So we are correct. Yeah, okay, so that does work. There is another variation that they also look at after this is also apparently, I just want to look, king e6 apparently also works. King e6, king e3, king here, h5, h4, and obviously we just get a tempo. Boom. Now either way he goes, we come in. Yeah. Okay, so that also works, I guess. Plenty of ways to win that. The pawn endgame is completely lost for white. Because of the isolated d pawn. Okay, so he plays rook g2 in the end. They do show that variation again. They show the variation again, which is really funny. But anyway, let's just scroll up here. So rook g2 gets played. Oh, sorry. Go back. Rook g2 gets played. There we go. Now it becomes a question of what do we do now? Okay. This rook can most likely never go for this pawn. Because if we take on b2, it's going to be dead. It's going to be done and dusted. Because then a3 is going to fall and the two pawns are going to win easily. So that means we can just bring our king in. So king e6. I mean, a d5 square looks like a very good square for our king to be. With the obvious idea of king c4 and rook d3 would be the typical idea to win the pawn on d4. Okay? So king e6 looks very logical. King d1. If, like they say, if rook g6, there's now a variation here, king d5, rook takes h6, rook takes b2, and of course that's falling. We have the three pawns. It should be fairly easy to win this. Okay, let's go back. King e6, king d1. Do we not have the option maybe? Okay, now this rook d3 idea maybe is not so great. Because after, let's say rook d3, king c1, or c2, sorry, king c2, probably makes a little bit more sense. If you play rook takes, now we can play here and take the pawn because we haven't lost the b2 pawn. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So we have a bit of a couple of complications going on here. So after rook d2, king e6, king d1, just continue on with the plan, king d5, new main line. So king d5, and now the pawn is hanging, is it not? They say he played king c2, so abandon ship. So his idea again here is that he protects the pawn on b2 now, so that he can go rook and rook. So now it's black to play here. It's our new diagram, it's black to move. Black does not want this to allow this. just scratch my eyelids, apparently. That's something you have to do every day. Okay, so now we can't allow that to happen. Okay, and this is now the other thing that we need to note here. Let me just get rid of some of these arrows. Is to note that this pawn was weak, this pawn was weak, but so is this one. Because now the king has gone to the other side, so now the h2 pawn becomes a weakness as well. So a move like rook h3 just makes complete sense now. Because the rook now doesn't have to attack on b7 or b2 anymore. And we want to protect our pawn because we are going to win this pawn. Looks fairly simple, doesn't it? If he plays rook d2, we just play rook h3. Can we do rook h3 immediately? Or do we just put him in zugzwang again? Play rook d2, then we just put him in zugzwang. Then we probably just play king c4. Is that a possibility? So let's look at rook d2, king c4. Now what does he do? Can't move the rook. And he moves his king. Let's say king c1. Can we just play here now? Yes. So you can see that we quickly get an attack. This d4 pawn obviously now just falls. Now if the rook moves again, let's say, okay, apparently you can check, but that doesn't help. Let's say he goes here, we go here, and he tries to attack this pawn again. Then rook h4 just attacks his pawn and defends our pawn. Okay, so that's devastating. So rook d2 does very little for his position. So the question is, what does he... Okay, does play rook d2 apparently. Let's just scroll down here. So again, like they say here, because white has no plan of, any concrete idea of moving forward, of improving his position, we do not have to hurry. Okay? We don't have to be hasty. We can just improve our position. Okay, so king c4 is played, and he played king b1 apparently. Let's just see. Now, sorry, let me just continue on here. Now they just say, now that all black's pieces are ideally placed, it is time for a new scheme. The white rook is tied to d2 square, where it is forced to keep grimly protecting the weaknesses on d4 and h2. This gives blacks the opportunity to push his h-pawn to h3, and then to play his rook to f3, f1, and g1 to a newly created g2 foothold. Okay, wow, that seems a little bit extreme. I figured we could just play rook takes, rook d3. I mean, surely that just wins as well. Rook d3 just looked very logical to me. But okay, I mean, maybe we don't even have to allow any of that. So they just say h5. I mean, what are you going to do about it? So you can't do anything. King a2, h4. King a2. Okay, wait. He played rook h4 apparently. So now he does go and win this pawn. I mean, come on. Like, I could win that pawn in my sleep. So rook f2 is played. King takes d2. I just want to see if I didn't miss anything. Okay, no, I didn't. King takes d4. Rook f7. What? b5 naturally. Rook f2. Rook h3. Again, just coming back to that square. Rook d2 check. And rook d3. See, there's the rook d3. Seems to be fine. I'm pretty sure we could have just played rook d3 anyway as well. All of this wins. Rook f2 gets played. King c4. Rook c2 check. King d5. Rook g2. I guess it's not so easy to win yet. Okay? Because, of course, the king just hides you in this corner here. We are a pawn up, but rook endgames, remember, it's not that easy to win. Okay. So now here the importance of schematic thinking is made clear. The last few moves by Keres has been a little aimless. So that is black. Okay. Only now does he discover that a new plan is needed in order to make progress. The black rook needs to get to g2. So tying the white rook to... Okay, so the black rook belongs on h3, tying the white rook to the second rank and protecting its own h-pawn. In order to escape from the checks, the black king must go to b6, after which it may be able to take shelter on a5. After the black must push his c pawn forward in order to later break open the second rank. Okay. So let's see how this continues. Apparently this is a lot more complicated than we thought. So he plays rook h3 now, finally, realizing that, okay, wait, that's the wrong place. King goes here, king goes to c5, rook c2, king b6. So he just does everything that he's supposed to do, rook f2. So white is waiting. White is on a waiting spree here. So c5 gets played, rook f6 check, king a5, rook goes back to f2, c4, rook g2. Okay, so now we have gotten this pawn down here, but, do we have anything? I guess we can just, obviously we're going to play c3. It's creating another small issue for him. Okay, just looking at some variations. Okay, now there's another little snippet here. Black has nearly executed the aforementioned plan, and now he prepares to enter the new stage. With c3, he will again force an opening of the second rank, after which he can once more take up the above-mentioned plan of getting the pawn to h3 and the rook to g2. Okay, so this needs to happen. Bump, 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 bump. How's that? How's that for pretty? It's a little runner. Okay, so c3 happens, takes. Oh, okay, that would happen, but white apparently played b4 now. New main line. He played b4 check. Okay, so obviously the plan that we had here with this, the rook here, the rook here, the rook here, and rook here could no longer be stopped. So he has to take drastic measures now, and he plays b4. After b4, pawn takes, king takes. We have a new position. Now we have to change again. Okay? Apparently, okay, we can just have this pawn and this pawn against this pawn, with his rook still being awkwardly placed. So c2 check, king takes, and rook takes a3. Because we're still going to come back to h3 again, and then we're going to use the king and pawn to push forward. So c, king takes c2, rook takes a3, king b2, rook goes to f3 apparently. Okay, so he still has this idea. Still has this idea. There. It's still plausible. Okay, let's see what happened. He played rook f3, he played rook e2. Of course, because the second rank is open now, whenever the rook tries to move, we can go check and then take the h-pawn, then win the h-pawn. Where in the previous variations where the pawn was on b2, he could still move his rook to try and check you and stuff like that, because you can't just attack the pawn that easily. Okay. Let's see how this continued. After rook e2, yeah, he played h4, so he's just continuing on with the plan. Rook d2, h3, and of course you can see that there is no way for him to stop the plan here. Rook e2 gets played, plays king a4, king b1, rook f1 check, king, where did he go? King c2 it seems, he plays b4. Just creeping forward as well. This plan is still here. Hasn't disappeared. So after b4, king d3. Okay. Rook d1 check. King c2 and rook g1. So we just, obviously if the king goes this way for white, then this pawn should decide matters because the king is supporting it as well. And now the threat is the obvious rook g2. There's no real way to stop that from happening. Okay, now this is a good endgame lesson for you, okay? When you have control like this, there's an idea of how to get to win the h-pawn. When the guy is controlling the second rank with his rook, you can obviously just systematically get your pawn up to in front of his pawn, and then you can just play this maneuver with the rook. Whew, sorry guys. Then you can just play that maneuver with the rook. Okay. I am going to do another example as well. I am just going to skip forward a little bit here because they show some position that doesn't seem to have much to do with anything. Okay, they're going crazy. I see why they are going crazy because they're trying to explain something beforehand. But again, this is all not so much that I care about. Let's go back. I just want to go back through this again. Let's go all the way back and just see where we started and how Black envisioned that he would have this beautiful dominating rook on b3. So the variation went, I'm just going to go skip forward, takes, there, rook e2, rook b3. Okay, so now of course this king just comes in. Now we have this beautiful dominating rook. White tries to run his king over to the queen side to help, but then the h2 pawn becomes weak. So we have this terrible pawn here, which the king is just going to come towards, and then this one and this one is dominated by rook b3, rook h3, rook b3, rook h3. And then the winning idea in the end, if he keeps control with his king defending the b2 pawn and the rook defending the second rank, then you just shove this pawn down the board all the way to h3, and your rook can go to f3, here, here, and here. But before that works, we also need to open up the second rank. So he does all of this in very, very fancy fashion. So watch it again. Now he plays h6 because he can't play king d1 immediately. So he has to play rook g2, and now the king continues on marching. King d1, king c2, king c2, and the rook h3. Okay, so now the rook can't leave because of the pawn hanging on h2 and would be check as well. So rook defends his pawn, king goes to c4, and king b1. So he wants to hide with his king on a2 and try and build a fortress. h5, king there, and now he played rook h4, just winning the pawn. So he takes, king takes, and then there, b5, back here, and then here black seems to not quite sure about how to win this yet, so he messes around about a little bit, and then he realizes that his king needs to go hide somewhere. a5 looks like a good place so that he can push his c-pawn, open the second rank, so he wants to get his pawn all the way to c3, so that after this takes, we have this open second rank. Okay, so he does this, goes king, king c5, goes there, king b6, rook goes f2, king, he plays c5, he goes check, king a5, rook comes down again, and he plays c4. Now after rook g2, he has this idea now, but he first needs to open up the second rank. As soon as the second rank is open, then this pawn coming to h3, the rook going to f3, f1, g1, and g2 is how you end up winning the game. So he plays it, plays c3. His opponent tries to avoid that specific variation, but it doesn't change matters. Because now, after the second rank is open, we still have that idea of doing this with the rook. And you're going to see how he executes it. So his opponent tries to play b4, takes, takes, there, takes, and takes. Okay, so now we have this pawn as our queenside trump, and our rook will still go to h3, and obviously if we can play all the way down to h3, we can still get the same position that we were looking for. King b2, rook f3. So now the rook just goes to f3 straight away, because of course now it's just quicker to get that moved. The king is still in the second rank, which is what we need. So he plays rook here, he plays h4, rook goes to d2, h3, rook goes to e2, and now he comes forward with his king because he just wants to have a bit of control over some of the squares on the third rank, which stops the opponent from going to the third rank when you move your rook out of the third rank. King goes here, check, king goes here, b4, again, control over these squares, so the king can't try and hide there. After king there, rook d1, now the king cannot abandon, he cannot go anywhere random, because otherwise he's going to get himself into a lot of trouble, because then this pawn is just going to come down the board and win the game. So he has to go back, and then rook g1, threatening this, and again, like I said, there is no way for him to get his king to any of these squares. So now king d3, we still just play rook g2, winning the h-pawn, and then of course the two pawns should end the matter, because obviously our king is very close to help this pawn as well. So that was that. So it ends up being a bit more of a rook endgame idea with a nice concept of shoving your pawn all the way down and then maneuvering your rook around, opening the second file, and getting your rook to that g2 square that is now protected by your pawn. Obviously, it could have been on a different file, etc. as well. Obviously, the closer the file is to the king, the easier it is for white to defend as well. I think that is where we'll stop this little session then. In about an hour and a half, I am going to play a game again. So I didn't want to go into the next position because the next position looks extremely complicated. But it's an endgame position, which I'm probably going to skip as well. I'll do it myself. But, because this is not an endgame section, I might skip it. So, because I didn't really like this. Okay, maybe this chapter has got a lot of weird positions in it. They're just trying to show you how to, sacrifice material to get draws, to, stuff like that. This is almost more tactical than anything else. And there's a lot of endgame positions in this one as well. So I'm just going to scroll down here and see where it ends. We have some positions that we can do. Exercise positions. I like it. So that is what we'll do. We'll definitely, tomorrow I will do one of the exercise positions. So basically they just give us a position and they say, who do you think is better? And then we obviously have to indicate why we think so. So we have to use our schematic thinking, our couple of things, our list, and then we have to obviously after that come up with a clear plan, and then we have to follow up our plan with concrete analysis as well. So it's a step, assess the position, create a concrete plan based on your assessment, and then execute the plan with proper variations analysis. Okay. Thank you guys. Like I said, I will be back in an hour and a half to play a game again. We'll do that on chess.com. I actually didn't even look at the chat at all. I apologize. I was getting involved because I like this rook endgame. I like endgames. I must admit, I do like endgames. It is quite clever endgames. So yeah, especially rook endgames that you can actually win because a lot of them are draws. Carlsen is one of the guys, who really just, he can shove around on a rook endgame so well. So, and he gets a lot of winning games, so you can't really judge the guy on that. Okay, thanks a lot. I'll see you guys in a